Okay, picture this. You're just casually scrolling through an internet forum, right? And you stumble across a thread of people reminiscing about their childhoods. It starts off innocently enough, but then the memories turn to this specific, hazy, half-remembered children's television show. A show that absolutely no one can find any official record of. And the kicker? The show gets progressively more disturbing the more these strangers talk about it. Welcome to the terrifying, deeply unsettling world of Candle Cove. Today, in this explainer, we are completely dissecting an internet legend that permanently blurred the lines between digital folklore, fiction, and our own childhood nightmares. So, buckle up because we are completely unraveling this legend.
Let me ask you a question. Do you, by any chance, remember a 1970s TV show called Candle Cove? Now, according to these scattered forum posts, it was this obscure local broadcast from the Huntington-Ashland metropolitan area. It supposedly aired on Channel 58 around 1971 or 1972, usually at a really weird time, like 4 p.m. The show centered around a little girl named Janice and her imaginary adventures with this bizarre crew of pirate friends. For years, people literally scoured the internet looking for any shred of evidence of this show, desperate to prove they weren't crazy, desperate to prove they hadn't just completely hallucinated this deeply weird piece of media.
So this entire legend was born on a fictional message board called the Net Nostalgia Forum. And like I said, it starts so innocently. A user named SkyShale033 just asks if anyone else remembers the show. And slowly, almost hesitantly at first, other users like MikePainter65, Jaren_2005, and Kevin_Hart start chiming in. They start piecing together all these fragmented memories of the broadcast. And honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in tension, because as they start validating each other's hazy recollections, the details they actually agree upon become incredibly disturbing. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. As these forum users are jogging each other's memories, they start listing out the eerie elements of Candle Cove. The characters were portrayed by puppets and marionettes, but we're not talking about the fun, comforting kind like on Sesame Street. Not at all. They describe the character Pirate Percy as looking like he was literally cobbled together from the parts of other, really cheap, low-budget dolls. Then there was the pirate ship, the Laughingstock. It had this wooden smiling face, but the lower jaw was completely submerged, just flopping open and closed on a piece of fishing line. You also had Horace Horrible and his monocle. The craftsmanship was universally described as cheap and slapshod, which gave the puppets these highly unnatural, spastic movements. Oh, and underneath it all, just this totally depressing, continuous calliope music playing in the background on an endless loop. It perfectly taps into the inherent creepiness of early television and that specific, weird feeling of unsupervised, slightly sinister nostalgia. But that weird nostalgia very quickly rots into genuine bone-chilling horror when the users start recalling the show's main villain. It wasn't Pirate Percy, no, it was the Skin Taker. The users recall him as this filthy skeleton pirate, wearing a top hat and a cape. But here is the worst part. The cape was made entirely out of children's skin. In what is easily one of the most terrifying recollections in the entire thread, a user remembers Janice asking the skeleton why his mouth moved back and forth, and the Skin Taker didn't even look at the little girl. Instead, he slowly turned his head to look directly into the camera, directly at the audience, and said, "To grind your skin."
Believe it or not, the horror escalates even further from there. The forum users suddenly realize they share a repressed memory of what they call the screaming episode. According to the thread, this episode had absolutely no plot whatsoever. The opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were just standing there. The camera frantically cut to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. The puppets and marionettes were flailing around spastically, violently, while the little girl Janice just moaned and cried as if she had been enduring this torture for hours on end. One user vividly recalls the Skin Taker's jaw careening so wildly it looked like it was going to completely fly off its wire hinges.
And then, right at the peak of the terror, the story delivers the ultimate twist. The user Mike_Painter65 posts that he recently visited his mother in a nursing home. He asked her if she remembered him watching Candle Cove when he was a kid. His mom was surprised he remembered the name, and she told him that whenever he claimed he was going to watch Candle Cove, he would tune the TV to dead air and just sit there, staring at 30 minutes of uninterrupted static. She said he just had a really big imagination. And the thread just ends there. No replies, just the lingering, horrifying realization that these children were somehow collectively hallucinating a demonic narrative out of literal television static.
All right, let's move into our next section, the truth behind the static, dissecting the legend. Okay, here is the big reveal. The truth behind the static is that Candle Cove never existed. It's a prime example of what we call a creepypasta. For those who don't know, a creepypasta is an internet horror story that has this anonymous, almost folkloric quality to it, and it spreads by being copied and pasted across different forums. This entire thread was actually penned back in 2009 by an author named Chris Straub. And what's really fascinating is that he was inspired to write this foundational piece of internet horror after reading a purely satirical article in The Onion about childhood television trauma. He took that funny, humorous concept and somehow spun it into absolute nightmare fuel. Let's look at how this spread, because following its publication in 2009, this static webpage quickly mutated into a massive piece of shared digital folklore. Fans instantly began copying and pasting the story across sites like 4chan, Reddit, the Creepypasta Wiki, and countless horror forums. But here's the genius part. They didn't just share it as a short story, they actively recreated the exchange as if it had actually occurred. They roleplayed it. By the mid-2010s, this viral spread evolved into fan-made, found footage videos being uploaded to YouTube, with creators claiming they were real VHS rips of the actual broadcast. Eventually, the legend grew so incredibly large that in 2016, the Sci-Fi Network adapted it into a full-blown mainstream television series.
Which brings us to the next section of our explainer, becoming digital folklore and the psychology of fear.
So we have to ask, why did this particular story terrify the internet so effectively? Well, it's because it actively weaponizes our psychological vulnerabilities. Normally, we look back at old, low-budget 70s media with this ironic, comforting distance. We feel safe. But Candle Cove cakes that technological nostalgia and completely strips away the safety net. It taps directly into gothic dread. It explores the uncanny terror of animate, comforting childhood objects suddenly gaining a sinister agency of their own. It renders seemingly static objects, like cheap marionettes made of foam and wire, as terrifyingly active, malicious subjects. And it leaves us with the horrible dread that our own comforting childhood memories might be completely corrupted. This brings us to a genuinely incredible academic concept called ontological flattening. Researchers use this specific term to describe how the internet completely blurred the lines between reality and fiction for Candle Cove. See, when those fan-made videos of the show were uploaded to YouTube, the comments section basically became an extension of the story itself. Real users would role-play in the comments, claiming that all they could see in the video was static. But then other users, who maybe weren't in on the joke, would reply in genuine confusion, saying, "No, I clearly see creepy puppets." Because a platform like YouTube offers absolutely no explicit borders between fiction and reality, the story breached containment. It felt genuinely, terrifyingly real, because actual people were reacting to it in real time, in the exact same way the fictional forum users did in the original story. And the psychological impact of all this went even further, brushing right up against what we now know as the Mandela effect. Now keep in mind, Chris Straub wrote this story in 2009. That is well before the Mandela effect became a widely popularized term online. Yet, his story perfectly illustrates the concept: a large group of people collectively remembering something that never actually existed. Thanks to the sheer power of peer suggestion and online networks, there were actually users in various comment sections across the web sincerely claiming they remembered watching Candle Cove as kids. It perfectly highlights how the internet can accidentally manufacture these shared false memories, completely blurring the line between real history and digital fake lore. And finally, let's head into our last section, Channel Zero and Beyond, expanding the lore. As we mentioned, the legend grew so potent that in 2016, the Sci-Fi Network adapted it into the first season of their horror anthology series, Channel Zero. Taking an anonymous-style piece of digital internet folklore and giving it the full Hollywood treatment was a huge milestone at the time. And the adaptation was brilliant. It expanded the lore while keeping that core feeling of terror completely intact. The show follows a child psychologist named Mike Painter, which is a fantastic nod to the original forum username MikePainter65. Mike returns to his hometown of Iron Hill, Ohio, to investigate the 1980s disappearances of several children, which included his own twin brother Eddie. The show reveals that unlike a standard studio production, the Candle Cove broadcast was actually the creation of 12-year-old Eddie, who possessed these dark, psychic, reality-warping abilities. Eddie literally created the show to lure local children into his own twisted alternate reality.
The series also brought the terrifying puppets to life, renaming the skin taker to Jawbone and introduced visually stunning, deeply horrific new elements. I mean, they literally created a creature made entirely out of children's teeth. It is nightmare fuel of the highest order.
But here is the main takeaway. Whether this story is translated into a high-budget television production with incredible, grotesque practical effects, or whether it exists purely as a simple, bare-bones text thread glowing on a computer screen at 2 in the morning, the brilliance of Candle Cove remains exactly the same. Its true, lasting power lies in its ability to completely hijack our deepest nostalgic vulnerabilities. It takes the safe, warm, comforting memories of childhood television and infects them with a creeping, undeniable dread. It forces every single one of us to ask ourselves if we can truly, actually trust our own minds.
Because think about it, we all have those foggy, distant memories of old cartoons or strange, low-budget local broadcasts that we watched unsupervised in the late afternoon. But the next time you try to recall the specific details of that bizarre, obscure show from your own youth, ask yourself, did it really exist? Or what half-remembered nightmares from your own childhood might just be static? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your memories close. That is, if you can still trust them.